Maya was used to writing the story, not living in it. For 5 years, her blog had been a loud, unapologetic voice in the feminist space. She'd written fiery essays about deadbeat dads, skewered men who complained about child support, and dismissed the notion that courts could be biased against fathers. Her words had gone viral more than once. She'd gotten hate mail, of course, but she'd also built a following that cheered her on. And she believed every word she wrote. Until the morning she walked into courtroom 3B. The air was cool and dry, heavy with that faint tang of varnished wood and recycled air. Her heels clicked across the tile as she followed her attorney, Olivia Grant, sharp suit, sharper voice, toward the plaintiff's table. Maya's ex, Trevor, was already seated at the other table, his lawyer flipping through a yellow legal pad. She refused to look at him for more than a second. The case had been brewing for months. Trevor wanted joint custody of their 7-year-old son, Noah. Maya wanted full custody, believing it was best for the child. She'd convinced herself Trevor was inconsistent, unreliable, even if deep down, she knew he'd always shown up for Noah. Today was supposed to be a formality. She had Noah's school records, a stack of affidavits from her friends, and the comfort of knowing that family courts, in her mind, naturally favored mothers. Then Judge Harper walked in. He was older, silver hair neatly combed, eyes scanning the courtroom like a searchlight. There was no warmth in them. "Let's begin," he said, voice deep enough to make the room sit straighter. From the first exchange, Maya felt a strange shift in the air. The judge didn't seem to be leaning her way at all. He asked pointed questions about Trevor's involvement, his parenting time, his work schedule. When Olivia argued that Trevor's job as a firefighter made him unstable for joint custody, the judge's brow furrowed. "Unstable," he repeated. "Or committed to saving lives." That wasn't in the script. Trevor's lawyer spoke next, detailing a meticulous timeline of every pickup, every school event, every doctor's appointment Trevor had attended. There were receipts, photos, even text threads where Trevor had offered extra help when Noah was sick. Maya's stomach tightened with each exhibit entered into evidence. Olivia countered, but it felt like throwing pebbles at a brick wall. Then came the part Maya didn't expect, Trevor's testimony. He didn't attack her. He didn't raise his voice. He talked about the nights he'd driven across town after a 24-hour shift just to see Noah before bedtime. About sitting in the ER with him after a bike fall. About the time he learned to braid hair because Noah wanted his hair like a cartoon character's for a school spirit day. The courtroom was silent except for his voice. And for the first time, Maya heard the cracks in her own narrative. When court adjourned for lunch, she didn't rush out. She sat there, hands clasped, listening to the buzz of conversation fade as the room emptied. Her chest felt heavy, not just with fear of losing, but with the faint, unwelcome sting of recognition. This wasn't the story she'd been writing on her blog for years. This was something else entirely. The cafeteria coffee tasted like burnt cardboard, but Maya held the paper cup anyway, fingers wrapped around it like it might steady her. Olivia sat across from her, scrolling through case notes on her phone. "You're still in this," Olivia said, not looking up. "We can push for sole custody if we keep showing Trevor's schedule is too erratic." But Maya's mind wasn't on legal angles. It was on Trevor's voice. On the way his hands had trembled slightly when he'd spoken about Noah's school plays. On the small smile he'd given when describing Noah's obsession with dinosaurs. It wasn't the performance of a man fighting to win a case. It was the testimony of a father fighting not to disappear from his son's life. The afternoon session hit harder. Trevor's lawyer produced letters from Noah's teachers, unsolicited, saying Trevor was deeply involved and that Noah lit up when talking about him. There was even a statement from the school nurse recalling how Trevor had rushed in when Noah had a fever, staying until the boy was calm. Olivia objected, citing irrelevance, but the judge allowed it. When it was Maya's turn on the stand, she felt the invisible weight of every eye in the courtroom. She told the truth. As she saw it, that she'd been the primary caregiver, that Trevor's shifts were unpredictable, that stability meant one consistent home. But under cross-examination, Trevor's lawyer began dismantling her version piece by piece. "Ms. Lane, are you aware that during the last 12 months, Mr. Carter attended every scheduled medical appointment for Noah?" She hesitated. I suppose so. And that when you were called into work unexpectedly in February, it was Mr. Carter who picked Noah up from school and stayed with him overnight. Maya nodded reluctantly. And you would agree, wouldn't you, that a firefighter's schedule is demanding, but it also allows for extended stretches of time off, during which he can be with his son? She opened her mouth, but the answer was obvious. Yes. Trevor's lawyer's voice softened. So the issue isn't whether Mr. Carter is capable of being a father, it's whether you're willing to share that role. Something twisted in Maya's chest. The judge called a recess before the closing arguments. Maya sat, staring at the wood grain of the table. In her mind, her old blog posts began to play like a cruel montage, words she'd typed so easily. If a man really cared about his kids, he wouldn't be fighting for custody, he'd just be paying his dues. Men use the courtroom to bully mothers. Now, those sentences felt like someone else had written them. When they reconvened, the judge's decision came swift and heavy. Joint physical and legal custody. He said. Mr. Carter and Ms. Lane will share equal parenting time. This court finds that Mr. Carter has demonstrated consistent commitment, reliability, and love for his child. Maya's breath caught. Equal time. It wasn't losing, but it wasn't the victory she had counted on. She looked over at Trevor. He wasn't gloating. He just exhaled, shoulders finally lowering, eyes glassy with relief. After court, the hallway felt too bright, the air too thin. Olivia was already talking about appeal options, but Maya barely heard her. Trevor passed by with Noah's backpack slung over his shoulder, giving her a small, polite nod. It was in that moment she understood. Every father she'd dismissed in her writing had felt exactly like this, fighting for the right to not just visit, but to parent. And now, she was one of the people standing on the other side of that fight. The first few days after the ruling were quiet, almost unnervingly so. Maya kept expecting Trevor to send a smug message. Or make some backhanded comment during pickups. Instead, he was polite. Cordial. Efficient. He arrived on time, handed over Noah's things without a word beyond a calm, "See you Sunday," and left. The silence left room for something else to creep in, the voices of her readers. It started as a trickle of comments on her older blog posts. People dug up her articles, the ones where she'd written lines like, "Men only fight for custody to avoid paying child support." But now those comments were paired with screenshots of the custody ruling. "Guess karma came for you, huh? So now you're the deadbeat mom. Wonder if Trevor will blog about you." Within a week, a parenting forum had picked it up, and soon, she wasn't just getting criticism, she was getting emails from fathers. Some were bitter, throwing her words back in her face. But others were just telling their stories. A father who'd sold his motorcycle to pay legal fees. Another who'd fought for 2 years to prove he wasn't an absentee parent. One who had won 50-50 custody, only to be told by strangers in the park that he must be giving mom a break. Maya found herself reading them late into the night, unable to stop. The real breaking point came 2 months later, during one of Noah's school art shows. Parents milled around the gym, sipping from paper cups of lemonade and pointing out glitter-covered projects. Maya was standing by a construction paper collage when she heard Noah's voice. "Dad, look. I put you and Mom in the middle." She turned and saw him tugging Trevor toward a poster board drawing. It showed the three of them, Noah in between, holding both their hands, under a big, unevenly drawn sun. Trevor knelt to eye level. "I love it, buddy." Maya stepped closer without thinking. "It's beautiful, Noah." He grinned. "Now everyone can see I've got 2 homes. That's even better, right?" Something inside her cracked. The words "better" and "2 homes" should have stung, but they didn't. They just made sense. Later, in the parking lot, she stopped Trevor before he reached his truck. I didn't get it before. Any of it. I thought men were just fighting to win." She hesitated. "I was wrong." Trevor studied her for a long moment. "Most of us aren't fighting to win. We're fighting not to lose." That night, she opened her laptop. Not to write another takedown, but to post something she'd never imagined, an apology. She didn't try to erase the past posts. She left them there, ugly and sharp, as proof of how far she'd come. The title was simple: I Was Wrong About Fathers in Court. It wasn't a viral hit overnight. It didn't absolve her. But it did something better: it started conversations she had once shut down. And the next time Noah's drawing hung in a school hallway, she stood beside Trevor without the bitterness, without the fight. Just two parents who had both learned, the hardest way, that a child's love didn't belong to one side.